G'day YouTube, how the heck are we doing? It is Foul Play here, and we're back in for some more modern action. Before we get into the deck tech, I'd just like to point out that there is a bug currently on Magic the Gathering Online, which affects the totem armor aspect of Hyena Umbra. So with Dress Down, it removes creature abilities, but the totem armor stays on the Hyena Umbra, and it shouldn't cause our creature to die. It should trigger after a burn effect, such as Lightning Bolt or Unholy Heat. Currently, that's not the case. So if you want to get this bug fixed online for when you guys are playing your league, I have made a poll in here. I'll leave a link in the description down below. The best thing to do is come along here, upvote this here, maybe leave a comment if you've got your own replay reference as well. That could possibly be handy. Thank you currently Kabaka, who's commented and upvoted the post. Alright, so we are going to be taking an unchanged main deck into this league. For anyone new here, we're utilizing Floofy Paws. We've also got Cartouche of Solidarity as a one-of. Audacity, Rancor, Sentinel's Eyes. Basically, if your opponent wipes out the board, you're going to get maximum number of auras back from the graveyard with Rancor, with Sentinel's Eyes, and even the card draw with Audacity can help as well. You're going to be able to reload those onto a Floofy Paws. Floofy Paws is then going to tutor for an additional aura that you don't currently have on the battlefield. And it's all a very, very strong self-perpetuating thing, which is hard for your opponent to interact with. You should note that Audacity is not just in here for the card draw, but because we usually kill in 3 or 4 attacks, it's more like an extra 3 or 4 damage rather than the Spider Umbra, for example. So the main difference of note currently is the Chalice of the Void in the sideboard replacing Deafening Silence. So Deafening Silence seemed like a good answer to Cascade to me in theory, but when they cascade not off a Violent Outburst but off of Shardless Agent instead, they still get to cast the cascade spell, whether it be Living End, Rhinos, Calibrated Blast, etc. So Shardless Agent is an issue. For this reason, I'm going to be substituting in Chalice of the Void. We can put Chalice on 0 and stop the spells our opponents are cascading into. This will also disrupt our own tempo less because we don't have to spend 1 mana on Deafening Silence, and we can just spend 0 on Chalice, and it's going to give us the same, if not better, result. Elsewhere in the sideboard, we've got Leyline for Burn and Discard. We've got Force of Vigor for Amulet Titan and Hammer Time. We've got Gadok Teague in there for Control and Tron. And we've got Pithing Needle in there as a catch-all. Ways to answer Blast Zone. Ways to answer the active of like a Beside You, a Ronin 6, effects like this. Okay, so here we are for the first match. We lost the die roll. Going to be on the draw. Opponent keeping 7. We'll do the same. Sand has a pretty significant weakness, and that's that we don't have any form of first strike into our opponent. So that's just something to keep in mind, really. But we do have a good aggressive clock, so for versing like a control deck or a combo deck, at least we can hit for a bunch on each of our attacks. Alright, so end step, opponent shocks in Watery Grave. So looks like we're versing a shadow deck of some description. We'll want to try and get our evasion online as quick as we can. Hyena Umbra, so we do find first strike, which is nice. I think what we do here is Windswept Teeth. We Hyena Umbra on our creature. And then I'm just going to attack for 2. I do expect a giant Death Shadow coming down soon. I want to hold up this Windswept Teeth in case I go for something funky like Liliana of the Veil. I don't want to get blown out by that. Alright, so opponent Crack Shock. Second Watery Grave. Bloodstained Mire. Third Watery Grave. Down to 9. Death Shadow. This could be like a triple Death Shadow even. Okay, so seems fine. I guess my opponent's holding up Counterspell. Let's go ahead and dangle a Sentinel's Eyes in front of them. Alright, so Sentinel's Eyes resolves. I think at this point we play our Temple Garden. We look to play a second Sentinel's Eyes on our creature. Just play around that Counterspell as best as we can. That resolves too. Alright, so I don't think our opponent has a way to grow their creature. I think we're safe to attack here. Deal all the damage to our opponent's creature if they want to do that. If not, we just grow it. And we do have the extra 4 damage in hand, so next turn we can grow our creature to 8 power, which is going to be good to kill it, assuming they don't have another fetch land, and here we are. Alright, so at this point our opponent does decide to attack in. Oh god, are we going to die to Team of Battle Rage here? I really hope not. Okay, good. It does look like they're playing Dimir, but you never know how much they might want to slow roll it. If your life total is less than your starting life total, this costs X less to cast, where X is the difference. Okay, so it's a 7/7 Shadow of Mortality. I guess we want to hold this up for potential blocks. Alright. What do we find? Hyena Umbra. Don't forget we do have Vigilance here, so we're in an okay-ish spot. Opponent will be forced to chump block with this one. Looks like possibly Counterspell is going to come down shortly. Alright, so at Rancor, opponent's willing to crack. They find an island. Here's the Counterspell. Fortunately, we do have another effect here. So opponent will be forced to trade off their Shadow. I guess if they want to attack in, we can chump block, trigger Totem Armor, attack with our second guy. Or we could block with the Dried Arbor. Either seems reasonable. I guess if we trade off Totem Armor, we have Cycle, Horizon Canopy into Daybreak Coronet as a line. Alright, so opponent has Bloodstained Mire there now. I guess they're just holding like Fatal Push or something in hand, so let's leave stuff as it is currently. Play Audacity, see how our opponent responds. That resolves. Well, opponent can do some stuff there. I guess we're stalemated for another turn. If we crack this for our guy, we draw a 1 mana aura, Ethereal Armor or Griff Spoons. That's drawing to 5 cards. We could attack and win. It's sacrificing Edict Protection. If we draw a 2 mana spell, it could get discarded to a Thoughtseize or Iok. I think the best move is just to pass. Of course, this does give our opponent another draw to hit another shadow creature. Hit a Team of Battle Rage, perhaps. Okay, so they fetched out Swamp, 10 power guy, Marsh Flats. And this time in end step, I will sacrifice this one. Find a Bogle. Alright. It's not what we wanted to see there. Let's play a Bogle. Alright, play land and again pass the turn. Alright, any aura now and we should be able to attack into this thing. Oh wait, they've got Marsh Flats. They can reduce their life once or more. If they play a second fetch land, alright, they can reduce their life total 1. Looks like they have some description of action. Hardcasting Street Wraith. Down to 2 cards in hand. Because we Temple Garden. You can also get Dried Arbor. There's potential to get attack wide if they activate this thing once more. So that could stop them from playing a counterspell. Although they've not left up double blue with the way they've tapped things. Rancor. Don't mind if I do. I'll treat myself to a little Rancor here. Alright, so attack with our big fatty. Oh wait, what am I doing? I'm throwing away a hyena umbra here. I'm a fool. Apologies, guys. I'll try and wake up. This does force them to 1, so it does. I should have attacked wide with these other 2 creatures. Yeah. Okay, well, that was a little bit silly. Hopefully it doesn't cost us. Alright, so there is the Fatal Push in our creature as well. So they did have the removal spell after all, but no excuse for the silly attack on my end. Alright, opponent passes back to us, and we do find Daybreak Coronet. So throw that one on. Have they got the counterspell this time? They do not. Alright, so let's go ahead and attack here. Attack here and see what they do. Alright, opponent concedes. I feel like we're a little bit fortunate. I feel like we top decked better than they did, but we'll definitely take the win game 1. Alright, so just quickly pulling up a random Dimir Shadow deck online here. We can see creatures they've got. They've got Delver, they've also got Murkide, and Murkide's a little bit scary. That's like a whole bunch of chunky creatures. For interaction, they've got Inquisition as 1, Thoughtseize as 4, 3 counterspells, 4 Drown in the lock. That could be annoying. Obviously, the Fatal Push as well. Sideboard-wise, looks like Brazen Borrower as interaction. There's also potential for them to have things like Dress Down as well, so we'll keep that in mind. Reminder as well, guys, if you do enjoy the video, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. So obviously, Leyline of Sanctity is just an all-star in the matchup here. I don't think we want any of these other effects. If they're running like a Chalice or something, maybe there's consideration for Force of Vigor later on. Pithing Needle, we could try to like juke their fetch land, but that's a bit silly because we saw 3 different fetch lands, so that's hitting maybe 4 out of 12 cards is not great odds. Alright, so cards to board out here are a little more difficult for me right now. I think maybe 1 Floofy Paws is fine. It's probably all that glitters. I think Spirit Mantle is good because it does give you that creature evasion. And after that, it's probably just Audacity, maybe a second land drop in the place of the second Audacity, but I'll just minus Audacity for this one. Hey, this hand looks... Oh, it looks medium strong. I thought it looked really strong, but it's like double Rancor, so not much to back it up after that. Little bit vulnerable to discard effects. Our opponent did keep 7, kept 7 pretty quickly. We do have Thoughtseize protection in the form of like 3 creatures. At least we're going to have a creature. I think on the balance of things, mulling is probably the safer play. Alright, well, it's pretty much the same, but we do have a first strike aura this time, so I guess we'll keep. Goodness, it's hard decision on what to ditch. If our opponent has a discard spell into a kill spell, ditching the second creature is wrong. If they have a discard spell into no kill spell, they just take our 1 aura and we're in an awkward spot. So Thoughtseize, no surprise here. Maybe we bug another hexproof creature to the top. I'd like to see that. Okay, so opponent takes away Floofy, and that's an interesting one. Alright, we find land. A bit annoying on that. But we'll play out our Slippery Bogle and pass the turn. Alright, so opponent Polluted Delta. Is this like double discard? Street Wraith. So why do you... I guess they don't have a Death Shadow hand? Okay. So, Void Walker, Shadow. If this card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Well, if a card, not if this card. Sacrifice it, choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a Void counter. You may play it without casting its mana cost. Alright, well this just seems like a really, really good opportunity going on our creature. Hopefully we don't get Liliana'd. We don't really have good protection into that. I'll pretend they have another discard spell in hand and keep Sentinel's Eyes, but if they have Liliana of the Veil, playing out the Sentinel's Eyes instead of the Ethereal Armor would have been correct. Also, the way our opponent was semi-conservative with their life total, fetching the basic Swamp, possibly means they don't have shadow in hand, so I'm more liberal about attacking them here, doing that damage. We're cracking back for 3 now. And we see a shadowed out this time. Alright, well that's not too bad. Play Sentinel's Eyes. Attack for 7. Opponent's forced to block with their guy. I think then we play out Windswept Heath, hold up Dried Arbor, just in case. The other option is like Horizon Canopy, cycle Horizon Canopy. I think we're fine here though. Opponent is attacking in, they do have shadow, we can't block. Take the 3. Second main plays out a shadow. Opponent's in end step. They've got 1 card in hand there. I think I'm fine fetching a basic here. It doesn't really seem like they're playing like they have Liliana. Even then, they have Liliana plus Fatal Push, so it shouldn't matter too much. So let's go and sack this one, draw a card. Try and hit that aura. Maybe Daybreak. Hey, look, a Daybreak, and they don't have Counterspell mana currently. They could Stubborn Denial. Alright. Well, that one resolves. Lovely. Get in there. So, opponent is blocking here. We do have to think a little bit. If we to trample 4 damage over onto our opponent, that would take them down to 3, making their shadows, what, 10/10s? We can deal with a 10/10 currently, so that's fine. But if they have double fetch or fetch Street Wraith, it might be a bit difficult. I think just being a little bit conservative, maybe we'll deal 1 extra damage to the shadow here. Put our opponent to 4. If the next blocker is a shadow, we're fine. If it's a shadow of mortality, we're fine. If it's a death shadow, we should hopefully be fine too. Although, did we give our... No, we've just given our opponent the option to go to 1. I think we overplayed that a bit fancy. Alright, so Castle Lochwain from the opponent. Opponent concedes. We take game 1. I definitely think we could have played a little bit cleaner than we did. On to the second match though. Alright, welcome back to the second game, guys. We lost the Durrell up against Ted Erickson, showing Gigantha as a companion. This hand is medium. I think we can keep. This hand would be a lot better on the play. Floofy Paws does give us a turn 3 kill against Tron. Opponent kept a 7-card hand. Razorverge Thicket, good find. I guess we poster boy it. Alright, opponent has pretty easily assembled Tron here. Guess double Audacity attack or Audacity Sentinel's Eyes attack. Seems fine to me. Probably getting Karned next turn. I hope it's just Karn and not anything grosser than that. Actually, I should fetch Shock that land, because if they Karn our mana, we're in a bit of an awkward spot. Our green cards could be switched offline. Alright, so opponent goes, gets the Power Plant. Alright, so now we see Power Plant and... maybe it's Worm Coil. I don't know. Ugin the Inevitable. Color spells cost 1 less to cast. Exile the top card of your library face down. Create a 2/2 spirit token. When it leaves the battlefield, put the exiled card into your hand. -3, destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Jesus, our opponent is going off here. Finding Karn the Great Creator, so that could mean Ensnaring Bridge Woes next turn. We're not technically dead because we can find Beside You to help fight through it, but I mean, we're pretty far behind realistically. So opponent gets the Spirit Token with the Ugin active. 3 cards in hand, one of which is this bad boy. And I guess we're just floofy now. I'll look to kill this Ugin and remove the Spirit Token in the process. The sooner we thin our library, the more we can dig to our beside you. So I guess it's trample. Maybe it's hyena umbra. Alright, let's protect our guy. We can put this guy to 1, which means that he can't negative to destroy a permanent. Opponent blocks with the spirit token. Alright, we'll assign damage as such. Wait, what? Oh wow, never mind. I didn't realize we lost our hexproof guy upon doing this. Yeah, I just assumed we had enough power and toughness and all of that. Oh my goodness, this is embarrassing. I think, like, even if we realize that that's the case, we're still forced to suicide our creature. I just assumed it was going to live. But we do get some new draws here. Unfortunately, a Floofy Paws replica. This one over here. We can Sentinels into Ethereal, and then we can Ethereal into Rancor. Opponent's probably Khan plus Bridge. Alright, so reveals Urza's Tower, plays Urza's Tower, Khan the Great, Khan Liberated, exiling our creature. Alright, that's pretty bad. We have another Floofy, but we need to find our Bridge Hate. This costs 2 less to cast, don't forget. Awkward. Opponent finds Chalice of the Void, and I'm assuming they can play this on 1, which is absolutely foul. Oh wait, no. They don't, no, they do still have their Ugin. They do play it on 1. Alright, well. Now we're battling through Chalice, and we're battling through beside you. Alright, let's just concede this one, I reckon. Alright, so I've just gone and searched out this list. It's not exactly the same because they don't have the 6 mana Ugin in here. A lot of the time, if your opponent hits 8 mana Ugin, it's game over. This particular variant is running main deck Thragtusk. I'm unsure if my opponent's is doing that as well. Probably the Thragtusks are the 6 mana Ugin slot. So as you can see for interaction, they've got Besedu, they've got Blast Zone. Obviously, they've got a whole Tutor sideboard as well. You can see Wilt here in the sideboard. That annoying Ensnaring Bridge. Oh, Crucible of Worlds, so they can, beside you, lock us as well. That's disgusting. Alright. So, these are the cards that are good against our opponent. We've got Force of Vigor to remove their artifacts and enchantments. Ensnaring Bridge, Chalice of the Void. We've got Gadok Tig to stop from casting any of their big stuff, and we've got Pithing Needle as an active for things like Blast Zone, things like their Planeswalkers. I'd like to note in that first game as well, we are much more likely to win that game if we're on the play. We hit turn 2 Floofy Paws, and we do actually have a turn 3 kill as well, before our opponent can assemble their Tron mana. So here we probably just want to take out some of our splashes, Griff Spoon, Cartouche, Spirit Mantle. They're probably less important here. Probably leave in the Griff Spoon in case we need a tutor for flying. Floofy Paws is definitely a card that stays in. We probably just like even remove all copies of Daybreak. I think we're probably aggressive enough without Daybreak Coronet. I guess after that, maybe a Sentinel's Eyes. So we'll ditch all of that for all of this, and it's a pretty heavy board, and we ran out of time, didn't we? God damn it. Yep, so we ran out of time, so we didn't sideboard then. Apologies, I wasn't keeping an eye on the clock. Alright. Well, good news is if we hit a Floofy hand, we can still turn 3 kill our opponent. As it is, we've mulliganed to 6, and we're still no creature. Alright, we'll keep this one. Ditch. Hope to fog the Dismember, and after that we just need to hit one mana aura and 1 mana by our turn 3 to kill our opponent. So that's 2 draws, and it has to be 2 pretty specific cards, but we'll go with that. Opponent holding up Urza's Mine. I mean, Dismember would be really bad for us if that's what they're going for. We kind of have to assume they don't have it. We don't have a choice with where we're at in this game. Another Ethereal Armor. Well, that is well and truly a turn 3 kill. If our creature lives, we'll see what our opponent does. Alright, off to our opponent's turn, and they haven't had the Dismember yet, so that's good news for us. We should note as well our opponent mulliganed to 5 this game, as did we. Tron usually mulligans pretty well though. So Stirrings for Urza's Power Plant, and looks like they're going to pass to us. They might be holding up Dismember for instant speed tricks. See what happens here. Unfortunately, we hit Audacity. Alright, well that just like hard resolved just then. Guess we play it slightly safe. Another Ethereal. This time we get Rancor. Attack for 13. If we hit a land, our opponent would have been dead, but we bricked on land. As it is, we put them to 7. The mana's not properly developed, so we should be able to kill them on the next attack. Haywire Might. Okay. We have Trample. We have more 1-mana auras. We can shoot it for flying. Opponent goes after the Ethereal Armor. I mean, that's fine. Plenty more where that came from. And Razor Verge Thicket and Ethereal Armor. Opponent concedes. Alright, let's fix up that sideboarding now, shall we? Alright, so I might make an ever so slightly changed adjustment to my sideboarding here. I'm going to be taking out all the Daybreak Coronets. We don't really need them in the matchup. I guess we take out an Audacity instead. Cartouche for Solidarity and a Forest. Since we're on the draw, we can probably cut 1 land without it being too detrimental. The idea is I'll keep in these 2 mana spells so that we can cast past Chalice of the Void. Given that's the consideration, should we have 1 Daybreak Coronet in to tutor with Floofy Paws? Off the back of them getting a Wormcoil Engine, that's probably reasonable. Let's just minus the Sentinel's Eyes. Okay, we see this 1 lander with minimal interaction with our opponent. Really aggressive clock if we hit the second land drop. Opponent mulls to 6. I think if we had this plus a Force of Vigor instead of one of the Sentinel's Eyes, it would be fine. I think it's slightly too risky. Alright, I mean, we'll keep it. Alright, and opponent has mulligan to 4. Chromatic Sphere. God, it is so tempting just to fire this one off and destroy that. Might do this upkeep. If we hit land, we miss on land. Alright. I think we're forced to play our scout now. If we do it in our opponent's upkeep, we can interrupt an Ancient Stirrings. It looks like our opponent's holding up mana anyway. 2 cards in hand. Tried Arbor. Come on, man. That's a pretty trash aura. Alright, we'll play Sentinel's Eyes. We'll attack for 2. I think we leave Dryad Arbor in hand to interact with enchantments. Dryad Arbor is green, so we can pitch it to Force of Vigor. Can't really help us cast too much in hand anyway. I guess it accelerates us to a Floofy Paws, but this seems like it's going to be a slower, clunkier game anyway. Opponent, Haywire Might. Green mana floating. Just gets rid of it. Alright, sure. Oh my god, this is just pathetic. I guess they're doing nothing. Let's set up for Floofy. Attack for 1. This is terrible. So I probably should have done this in the previous turn as well. I was getting slightly too tricky, I believe. Well, at least we have double force now. We can't get too tricky interacting with our opponent, I don't think. I guess we just save this for enchantment interaction. Like, if we fire this off upkeep, they just cycle the Chromatic Sphere, or they don't even need to. They sack the Expedition map. We accomplish nothing. We'll save it for the Snaring Bridge, Chalice, etc. Alright, so Chromatic Star for green. Plays Urza's Mine, taps it, Sylvan Scrying. So Urza's Tower now. We can actually kill their expedition map, but they do have Urza's tower, so that's a bit pointless. Mana. Okay, that is mana, but mana does not accomplish much here. Says the potential our opponent exiles Floofy Paws, so we'll leave it sitting where it's sitting. Guess if we get Rancor, it's good with second Floofy in hand. Obviously, we didn't have the double white to follow up with Daybreak Coronet. We'll just attack here. Decent attack for 7. Game has obviously been very slow. If our opponent just untaps and Ugins, I don't think we can win. Alright, so tower played. Khan the Great Creator, and I mean, I'm very happy to see that. That is good news on our front. Khan active on the negative. Alright, so not surprisingly, we see Ensnaring Bridge, so we can just go for an end step Snaring Bridge here, end step Force of Vigor, untap and kill our opponent. Go Team Bogle. And while we're there, we can take out that pesky expedition map, stop it from searching up a blast zone. Lovely stuff. Alright, Daybreak, and Daybreak for Ethereal Armor seems fine. Attack for the win. And opponent concedes. Beautiful stuff. Well, that was a very disjointed game, but opponent mulled to 4 and their hand was very awkward. Despite our hand being awkward, our cards lined up well into theirs. Alright, so welcome back for match number 3. We won the die roll this time. 1 land, 2 mana creature hand, and that's going to be a throwback. It's like super risky. It depends on what our opponent's on as to whether or not this is a keep or not. I think of the balance of things, I'm just going to keep it in the blind and hope we cheat a win here. Our opponent is very nice with the old GLHF. Good luck, have fun. Blood Crypt. Oh goodness, this is a scary one. Well, if we play this, I think it's dying, but we're not guaranteed to draw mana next turn, so I guess we just have to pretend our opponent, who is a Rakdos deck, does not have removal. Pretty sketchy. Could be Rakdos mid-range. They might not have the Fury in hand. Alright, so here comes Thoughtseize, and we do obviously have Sentinel's Eyes here, which is quite powerful from the grave. Probably Daybreak Coronet disappears, or Ethereal Armor disappears. It's probably Ethereal Armor is the right take because of that first strike action that it gives. Alright, and our opponent does take away Ethereal Armor. Second Bloodstained Mind getting cracked. Holding up Fatal Push. And, oh, second Thoughtseize. Alright, so our hand's going to be pretty anemic here, but I mean, at least we can protect our creature. That's kind of nice. They could still Fury. They pass to us. Alright, that's kind of nice. Alright, so Sentinel's Eyes. I think the first one of these just has to get protection, right? The second one can either get Ethereal Armor or Rancor. I think I'm going to lean towards Rancor because then we're bigger than most of our opponent's creatures. Although if we get Ethereal Armor, we're bigger than Unholy Heat. I think we just have to play towards the keywords though. Alright, so this is our opponent dead in 3 attacks, but virtual 2. Any aura and they're dead in 2 attacks. Alright, so Blood Crypt crack. Oh, please don't tell me we're getting like Liliana of the Veiled. That would be very awkward. Blood Crypt shock, so maybe Death Shadow. Alright, so that strips away our 1 mana auras. We do get 3 auras back though, and we can attack for the win, so that's all good. Okie dokie. So exile, exile, done. Get Ethereal Armor. Rancor. And Rancor, I mean, we already have lethal before this. Opponent concedes, so we beat Hijitsugu, I'm going to say. I don't think we saw enough of our opponent's deck to know exactly what they're on. This is like a Rakdos sacrifice style deck with these other creatures. There's also the Rakdos mid-range, which really leans towards the Grief, Fury, and returning them from their graveyard with these effects. Seems like a little bit of an in-between spot here for our opponent. Cards we have to be worried about from them: Blood Moon, Chalice of the Void, Engineered Explosives, and of course the discard effects, and Hijitsugu too. So I feel like this is a pretty good number of these cards for us to bring in for Leyline, of course. 2 to 3 Force of Vigor, but I'm going to lean towards 2 copies of Force of Vigor. 3 copies of Force of Vigor here. Cartouche Solidarity could have use. I feel like we're probably trimming on Audacity this game. It's a bit harder from this point. Maybe 1 Floofy. I think Spirit Mantle is pretty good. All That Glitters is okay. Obviously, we're bringing in additional free enchantments, so its power level goes up a little bit. Maybe down to 1 Audacity. Minus a Temple Garden. Then maybe minus a Daybreak Coronet. Alright, we'll submit. Daybreak Coronet is not completely troll to cut as well, because if our opponent's on Blood Moon, we don't have our Force. I mean, we can only fetch up 1 basic planes. There's only 1 planes in the list. Alright, and we see our opening 7. Opponent keeping 7, and we have a good Blood Moon protection here, but throw that one away. This doesn't look great. It's not very good into discard. We can't protect ourselves from discard. I think we have to go again. Alright, at least this we can protect ourselves from discard a little bit. And it's probably just mana after that. Blood Crypt in tapped, passing to us. So, oh yeah, good old Leyline of Sanctity, right on time. Although, doesn't look like our opponent had discard anyway. Alright, opponent with explosives on 1. We do have the Hyena Umbra, which we can play into it to protect our guy. Is it weird that I'm considering Audacity attack, play Temple Garden in tapped, reset with our Bogle later on? I have a feeling like if we just Hyena Umbra, they can hold off for quite a while. I don't think they have the discard spell because they didn't play it on the first turn. And they also didn't play it on the second turn. So they have to already have the 3rd land in hand and draw exactly discard spell this turn. So basic Swamp Search from the opponent. This is pretty big tell that they might have Blood Moon in their deck. And looks like they're going to hold the mana up for our guy. Let's go ahead and attack in. Find Rancor. It doesn't really help too much here. Alright, looks like Combat Step. They're willing to blow this one up. Audacity, draw trigger. Hey, look, a little bit of protection against Blood Moon. Not too shabby. We'll just play out Rancor, protect it from a discard effect. Opponent makes their 4th land drop now. And we see Sheralded the Apocalypse. Death Touch. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. Oh, that's a bit gross, opponent. Jinkies. Alright, so we have Daybreak Coronet, so our life is not such a concern. We also now have 5 power combined with our first strike, so attacking into this thing is not such a concern either. Alright, so opponent gained a couple of life when they drew a card just then. Seems like they're almost more of a control variant deck with the way that this game's been played out. Season Pyromancer, sure thing. We see Phyrexian Crusader from the sideboard discarded and Fatal Push. So they're packing some hate for Floofy Paws. Alright, so we can attack here. We can fetch up our planes post-combat and play Leyline of Sanctity. That puts us in a decent spot. Looks like our opponent not blocking. Alright, so Leyline and pass turn. Protection from Liliana is always nice. Alright, opponent gains 2 life. And we should note when they drew the 2 cards with Seasoned Pyromancer, they also gained 4 life there. So this so far has gained them 8 life. Hazoret the Fervent. Opponent's on a wacky brew here. This looks freaking awesome. Okie dokie. Fine manner. Indestructible Haste. Goodness. So can we even attack here? Can't attack or block. Okay, that's good. So our opponent has to have 1 or fewer cards in hand. They have 4. Just takes the damage. Okie dokie. Alright, triggers gains life. This seems like a little bit of a nombo with Seasoned Pyromancer. I do like the card though. It's a freaking awesome card. Alright, so they play Turok, Pro White. Whenever an opponent discards a card, put a 1/1 counter on Turok. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, target opponent discards 2 cards at random. I think we'll leave this Windswept Heath sitting here for Dried Arbor, maybe. Maybe not. We've got the Leyline protection. Let's just thin the deck and try to end the game as quick as we can. Hey, look! An actual aura. That's fantastic. Alright, so snap, throw that down on our guy. Go to attacks, and we've got a big attack now. I think our opponent was playing, when they played Hazoret, was possibly a mistake. I assume that their hand is clogged up with expensive spells. And playing an expensive creature when it's hard for them to empty their hand and turn this thing online. Maybe it was a misplay. I'm unsure what the rest of their hand looks like. Maybe it's all discard spells, so who knows. So our opponent blocks like this, and I guess we'll auto blockers like this. We should still trample over the top pretty nicely. Yep, 2 damage over the top. Put our opponent to 2. We're not out of the woods yet. If they hit Hijitsugu, obviously that will throw away pretty much all our auras. Alright, opponent graceful in defeat writes GG's, so we'll GG them back, and well, with 3-0 currently, not too bad. Feel sorry for our opponent. I feel like their deck underperformed what it usually does. Obviously Bogles is supposed to be difficult to interact with though. Our hand also lined up really well into Engineered Explosives with the perfect reset, and we drew pretty well. Or at least well in the early turns. Alright, so here we are for the 4th match. We won the die roll. Hand looks freaking awesome. Let's get into it. Alright. Our opponent keeps a 7-card hand. Oh, Sunbaked Canyon. This is fantastic. If this is burn, this is absolutely perfect. We got Daybreak in hand. We're ready to go. We won the die roll. Yeah, this is beautifully set up for a very successful game here. Sentinel's Eyes. That's kind of nice. I think it's redundant. Let's just assemble our first strike, our trample. We'll have Vigilance next turn on Daybreak. No need to overcomplicate things and block. Alright, so Lava Spark from our opponent here. Oh no, they're bricked on mana. That's pretty awful for them. I mean, it means there's a lot of burn spells in their hand, but that's a very awkward spot to be in on any aggro deck. Alright, well, this seems pretty damn straightforward. They'll probably concede to Daybreak. Alright, so in for 9, gaining 9. Opponent concedes to the attack specifically in case we accidentally skip through. I mean, that's fair. I respect that. So Burn's a fairly big part of the metagame at the moment. I'm not super upset to see that. That's pretty okay for us. Their main interaction, they've got Wear Tear to destroy our enchantments. They've got Skullcrack to prevent us from gaining life. Roiling Vortex to prevent us from gaining life. And the big one is Deflecting Palm, which can deflect our attack despite our creature being hexproof because it doesn't target the creature, you just name it. And also it will deal it to that controller, so it doesn't even target the player. So a little bit awkward there. Definitely Deflecting Palm's a hard one to play into. Alright, so this is how I usually like to sideboard, bringing in Leyline of Sanctity and 2 Force of Vigor. Force of Vigor for those games where our opponent has Idol on the Great Revel. Now that they're playing Roiling Vortex as well, it has that extra target, which is important. We're taking out 2 Light Paws, 1 Audacity, 1 Griff Spoon, the All That Glitters, and the Spirit Mantle. Alright, so a no creature hand. We'll be mulling this one. Opponent keeping 7, second no creature hand. And we'll keep this one. Ditch the duplicate. I guess let's ditch that one as well. So we've got Trample, we got First Strike, got a Hope, we got a Dream, all that good stuff. Sparring Vantage, no creature. Passing to us. We hit Rancor, not hugely what we want to see. Go ahead and play our guy. Hopefully we can hit white mana by turn 3. And there it is, Roiling Vortex. Alright, add insult to injury, second Daybreak Coronet. Go ahead and attack for 3. Roiling Vortex, dealing 1 damage to our opponent. Here's the Swift Spear, and this could be on blocking duty, which is bad for us because, nope, they choose to go on attacking duty. Alright, well that's fine. What a middle finger the deck is giving us right now. Hopefully the Strength of Leyline gets us there. If our opponent catches on that we don't have First Strike auras though, things could get a little bit dicey. So in for 5, put our opponent to 10, Roiling Vortex down to 9. Opponent plays Mountain, so third land drop on turn 4. They've made land drops the past 2 turns. Lightning Helix, targeting themselves, prowess trigger. I mean, that's, yeah, it's a little bit desperate almost. They're not even going to like lightning bolt their creature, prowess trigger or anything. Interesting. Alright, attack in there for 5. Put our opponent down. I guess we play this out, but it probably just gets eaten by lightning bolt. So Roiling Vortex, opponent down to 3. If they want to spend their mana doing lightning bolt and stuff, they can't hold up their mana during our turn. So lightning bolt, target the Floofy Paws, sure. It's going to make it harder for them to hold this up as a chump blocker into Scout. Attacks. It's like reeks of Deflecting Palm right now. Well, we couldn't play Daybreak even if we wanted to. Attack for 5. So we can't play around this at all. Deflecting Palm, sure. So we have to hope our opponent doesn't have lethal on us next turn. And then we can just trample over the top. So that puts us to 3. This is very close. Opponent goes down to 1. Can't even activate Fiery Islet anymore. Sacks Fiery Islet. Goblin Guide. Oh my god, what a pull. What an insane pull. Holy smokes. And Hyena Umbra off the top. Okay. Well, that was a close one, but Game 3 we get to be on the play, so that's exciting. With sideboarding here, maybe we can board out 1 extra Force of Vigor. I don't think it's that important to do that though, because we've just seen from our opponent Roiling Thunder, so just resubmit. Pardon me, Roiling Vortex. On the play. hand's not amazing. No life gain, no trample. 1 mana, so the tempo is pretty weak. That leaves us weak to Eidolon as well. I think we can do better. Alright, so here we go. We'll keep this one. Ditch Cartouche. I guess in this spot we ditch 1 mana. Keep some good auras and keep the ley line. So Bogle pass. Alright, opponent with Gobby Guide now. Attacking in Trigger. Hey look, land. Thank you, opponent. Go ahead and take that damage. Down to 18. And another Horizon Canopy. Alright, I'm ready for you now, Daybreak Coronet. Alright, so we'll take a bit of damage here. We'll allow our opponent to continue filtering us and we'll just go on the offensive. We'll try to leave them with as little time as possible to draw Deflecting Palm. Obviously, Leyline gives us good protection here. Alright, opponent with Sacred Foundry plus Swift Spear. Looks like a double attack here. Sacred Foundry in tapped, mind you. Audacity off the top. Alright, let's keep pressuring our opponent's life total while it's free to do so. Guess we Horizon Canopy, attack for 6. Opponent with Inspiring Vantage into Eidolon of the Great Revel. Any attacks from our opponent? I would assume so. Yep. So getting in there nicely. Top card. I can't shuffle this. Alright, so end step, we will take a point of damage. We'll draw an extra card. We're looking for Ethereal Armor. We're looking for Daybreak Coronet. Looking for something that ends this match. Vigilance will do. Trigger. So our creature goes up to 7 power. Our opponent's almost forced to block with the Eidolon here. And we just have to hope they don't have Deflecting Palm in hand. Our opponent didn't block. So any burn spell will put them to 1. Deflecting Palm can kill us, obviously. I don't know how we get around this. I guess we wait for the Goblin Guide trigger and see what it reveals from the top. See if we've got an outplay. Opponent plays Sunbait Canyon. Roiling Vortex. Okay. Trigger. Whoa, 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 whoa. I think our opponent's just given us the win. Oh, and they concede. Okay. So the reason why this is the win is Eidolon trigger. They go to 1 point. They can't cast anything, any Deflecting Palm off Sunbait Canyon at that point. If this was for Mountain, for example, didn't deal them the damage and we play around the Deflecting Palm in hand, all we do is pass to their turn. Roiling Vortex, upkeep, 1 damage to them, and they die. I guess with Deflecting Palm anyway, it will trigger, it will hurt them. Opponent really should have blocked with Eidolon the Great Revel. That was a little bit foolish from them, but I'm sure they realized that as well. And I'll definitely take the win. Match number 5, playing for all the marbles here. Versing Peppy Apple. A hand looks stacked. Let's keep it. Let's get into it. Mish's Bobble. Targeting themselves. So they play out the Scalding Tarn. They're cracking this end step. They are. Alright, they want a different draw. Steam Vents. Shocked. So that means we could be playing around Spell Pierce here. Shock here. I think we lead on Audacity. It's the weaker of the effects. In most cases. Alright, so that one resolves. Now if they have Spell Pierce, they can try countering our Sentinel's Eyes, which is a far worse target. Consider in response. So it looks like we're versing a Murkide deck here. Currently don't have First Strike on our creature. Opponent currently doesn't have Ragavan, so it's not a big concern. So you can see, consider put the counterspell into the graveyard with the Surveil. Holding up Island and pass to us. Alright, well that's not really what we wanted to see. See if we can make our opponent counter this Rancor. Alright, so Rancor resolved. Let's go ahead and attack. Maybe they want to bounce something with Brazen Borrower. I think we want to hold on to our Daybreak Coronet. We can cycle Horizon Canopy end step of our opponents. I definitely don't want to throw this just straight into a counterspell. Opponent cycling Dress Down. I love to see that. That is great. Hopefully it doesn't mean that they have the second Dress Down plus a Lightning Bolt effect. That would be less good. Oh, they did an end step so it sticks around. Oh no, and the effect sticks around. Never mind. Our opponent is a freaking genius. That is pretty disgusting. Alright, so Lightning Bolt, fair play. We get a card draw. We get a Rancor trigger. And Floofy to hand. Okay. Our opponent is like so holding up counterspell here. I think we have to try and draw to a second creature. We've got the third land in hand. Maybe they don't have the counterspell. It's extremely likely they do. Hyena Umbra. Not really what we want, but we'll see what our opponent does about Floofy. So that one resolves. We'll go for Sentinel's Eyes from the graveyard onto her. This resolves, we'll be getting our Hyena Umbra. Although there's already a Hyena Umbra in hand. Opponent Unholy Heat on the Floofy. Alright, so that one's dead. Alright, we're drawing to any creature now, hopefully. Alright, opponent with Fiery Eyelet. Played into casting Murkide Regent. Murkide Regent's a fat 5/5. And that one's not going to help. Let's go ahead and cycle this one. It's a Bogle. If our opponent has Counterspell, that's going to be an awkward one. I'll try to sneak this through in the second main, hoping that our opponent sixes the turn. And they don't try to do that. Counterspell is just cast, and we lose our guy. Alright, so that is the second Counterspell from their deck. Hopefully they've run out of copies of Counterspell. Hopefully we draw like our fourth creature maybe. We'll see what happens. Murkide serving in for 5. We go down to 12. And Ragavan. Alrighty. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Alright, please just brick on the counterspell once, opponent. Alright, so we do this neat little trick where we sack the canopy, go down to 2 lands, and now Razorverge Thicket comes in untapped. Of course, that leads to absolutely nothing because no creatures. Misty Rainforest played and cracked. 2 in our opponent's hand. I guess they're cracking Fiery Eyelet here, maybe. Looks like they're playing towards a Blood Moon off the Ragavan as well. That's what they find. Please not a creature. Alright, they find Beseju. Alright, that's fine. Tap, tap, tap. And second Murkide? Yep, second Murkide. I don't think we can win here. We don't have flying. Opponent just flies over the top and kills us. Alright, and that's certainly not going to do it. Alright, so we can see Izzet Murkide here. It's pretty difficult to play into this deck. This is one of the strongest decks in the format. Certainly doesn't help that at the moment there is a bug with Hyena Umbra or Totem Armor spells in general. We can see main deck they interact with Counterspell and Spell Pierce as counter magic. Postboard, sometimes they have more copies of Spell Pierce as well. Main deck, they usually have Blood Moon and Dress Down as, you know, 1 or 2 ofs. And there's also usually Brazen Borrower as a 1 or 2 of as well these days. Sideboard-wise, we can see Engineered Explosive, more Dress Down, more Blood Moon. And yeah, well, we're just going to have to hope to get around our opponent's spells, right? So with potential for 2 copies of Blood Moon, 1 to 2 copies of Force of Vigor is correct, I feel. You don't want to go too hard on it. Remember, beside you is also a way to deal with it if we have the forest on the battlefield. Gadok Teague can counter Engineered Explosives, but that might be just a little bit too much, you know. Chalice the Void is no good here. Deafening Silence is decent into our opponent's deck, because if they dress down and need a burn spell in the same turn as the dress down, they can't cast the second non-creature spell in the turn. Of course, we saw the interaction in this game. Our opponents demonstrated that they know it, where they can end step the dress down. It'll stick around for the next turn, and then they can get around the Deafening Silence that way. Alright, so I'm not sure if I really want to bring in too much of this other stuff. Maybe a Pithing Needle for engineered explosives. I think that's probably about it, though. It's probably one Floofy and then just some of our 2-mana stuff. And we'll just submit. We'll get into it. Alright, well that's certainly not the hand. This could be, but... I mean, we have no Hyena Umbra. We have semi-good rebuild potential. We're missing our second land drop, which makes it risky. I can definitely see an argument for mulliganing. I think I want to keep, though. Ditch the Daybreak. I'm choosing to ditch Daybreak because it is the most awkward spell into our opponent. I'm assuming that the first hexproof creature is going to get removed by dress down plus burn spell, and I'm wanting to give myself the best opportunity to have a creature afterwards, like reload on a second creature. So here my game plan is draw second land, play out probably Cartouche Audacity, or Rancor Audacity, attack. Probably Rancor Audacity. Opponent is representing Spell Pierce currently. Ugh, what a rubbish draw. Alright, we'll try with Audacity. If this gets countered, it's upsetting, but see what happens. Opponent chooses to let it resolve, and I am most gracious to accept, opponent. Alright, so in for 3. No cracking of the Misty Rainforest. Your opponent must be mana light. Looks like they found that mana. Passing back to us. Representing Counterspell this time. Alright, so I guess we run into Counterspell here with Cartouche Solidarity. Our opponent's welcome to counter this. They could end step, dress down again, and look to kill our creature next turn. At which point we'll get the draw with Audacity, so hopefully... Alright, Spell Pierce. Hopefully we'll hit the mana by that point. As it is, attack for 3. Alright, opponent plays out Scalding Tarn. Looks like they're passing back to us. At this point they can like Brazen Borrow a block, which is annoying. I think we make them have it. Let's just go for attacks here. Oh no, wait. Never mind. Brazen Borrower can only block creatures with flying, so this attack is fine. I don't think I want to extend anything extra onto the board just yet. Feels like they're setting up for dress down, remove creature. Alright, there is the Scalding Tarn. There is the Misty Rainforest. Oh, and Archmage's Charm. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine with that. Okay, Steam Vents for the opponent. Down to 15. Down to 5, pardon me. Dragon's Rage Channeler, sure. And opponent just passes to us. I mean, we can't just attack here. We are stacked with hexproof creatures in hand. I feel like the likelihood of resolving Hyena Umbra is pretty low. We have less... We want to... This Hyena Umbra is more important than this Scout on the battlefield, in my opinion, currently, because we have 2 hexproof creatures in hand. Our opponent will happily oblige to this block. We'll get the card draw from Audacity. Hopefully we make a land drop. When we play the Slippery Bogle, our opponent will have Counterspell for that, but then they won't have Counterspell for the second Slippery Bogle. And then hopefully we Hyena Umbra up, have good protection. Everything is happy and good and right with the world. Alright, cool. Alright. Slippery Bogles for days. Okay. I feel like extending multiple Bogles onto the battlefield isn't super bad. We'll see what happens. If our opponent looks to dress down double bolt, we can force a Vigor to fizzle the dress down as long as they don't have Spell Pierce up. It looks like they're going to have Spell Pierce up though. Maybe the second Bogle was greedy. I think that was a mistake. Apologies, guys. Unholy Heat. We can try and force in response. I think we probably have to go for it. That'll chew up a counterspell, and this all falls to pieces if our opponent has Spell Pierce plus counterspell. I think we're very far behind at the moment and have to go for it. Our opponent's also at 3, so this should hopefully be fine. What an unorthodox use for Force of Vigor here. Crazy stuff. So my opponent is thinking for a little bit here, which says to me that they don't have a second Lightning Bolt in hand currently. Archmage's Charm, Counterspell. Perfect. This is fine. This is good. Oh, wait. They steal the guy? What? Okay. That's next level tech. So they steal the guy to fizzle the force. Because why not? As it is, we get our 2-2. And hopefully no fatty Murkide, or else this is going to be a difficult one. Dragon's Rage Channeler from the opponent. We need to resolve any aura here. Hell yes, that is such a good draw. That is the best draw into all the counter magic our opponent is holding. Alright, so we can attack here. This is awkward if they have another dress down though, because we'll lose first strike. Again, we should not lose the totem armor aspect on the Hyena Umbra though. And it's just really unfortunate if that bug is going to win our opponent the match when we're playing for a 5-0. Petty Theft, however, I mean, that's absolutely fine for them to go for. That makes perfect sense. It's very awkward for us. Lose our guy. Drawing to hexproof creatures again. Opponent end step, consider. Surveil trigger. And Surveil one there. Unholy Heat to the graveyard, I believe. So they put cards on top of their library with the Surveil effects. Both cards went to the top. Okay, so they didn't put anything into their graveyard. So now our opponent with a Ragavan in a commanding position here. Opponent's more likely not to hit a creature than they are to hit a creature. So I think we let the Ragavan trigger go through first. And they find Razorverge Thicket, so sweet. Dead draw. This one back to hand. And then we just have to resolve through a creature through a counterspell, which is probably very unlikely. That is a creature, though. Rancor. Well, I guess we pass turn and hold up Dryad Arbor and multiple auras. Opponent with the dash on Ragavan again. Attacking in with both. Sorry. So they Audacity on the Dragon's Rage Channeler. I personally think they should put it on Ragavan to get that card draw trigger once the Audacity leaves. The card draw trigger will go to our opponent, not to us. This one back to hand. This is a pretty scary Dragon's Rage Channeler right now, though, hey? Not super keen on that one. Not super keen on this Dryad Arbor either. Okay, well, we find Hyena Umbra, so make them have it. Hopefully it's Counterspell and not a Burn Spell. Counterspell! Excellent. So, as long as they don't have Spell Pierce or a burn spell off the treasure token here, we can Rancor and we can attack for the win. Fingers crossed. Oh my god. Opponent concedes the match. Holy cow. Wow. That is so fortunate. So I think going into game 3 here, I'm going to remove the Griff Spoon. I'm going to bring back in all the glitters. I like all the glitters a little bit over Griff Spoon because... No, it should be Spirit Mantle. What am I thinking? It should be Spirit Mantle so we can push a creature through any form of blocker. Griff Spoon is slightly worse into Engineered Explosives, and additional to that, their Brazen Borrower can block flying creatures. No creature mulligan. Opponent looks like they're keeping... Oh wait, no, they've mulliganed to 5. Alright, we'll keep this one. Ah, goodness, this is a tough decision. I think we bottom Razorverge Thicket here. We'll keep the Windswept Heath because we can fetch up a basic forest to play around Blood Moon, and Horizon Canopy can help us play around. Like, we want the card draw effect from Horizon Canopy, right? In case they counter too much of our stuff. Opponent with Ragavan. Alright, so we actually are looking very good into turn 2 Blood Moon here. Just be very diligent on clicking the right land there. Alright, Ragavan getting in there. Trigger. Finds a scout. Yeah. Take it if you want. I think we'd actually be in a really strong position here if our opponent was to play Blood Moon. It looks like they do nothing. We draw another scout. Yikes. Flooding out a touch here. Alright, we'll Rancor. It's likely this gets countered. Okay, that one resolves. Seems fine to me. Let's go ahead and attack now. I think we Horizon Canopy here to like try and bait a Blood Moon. I don't really want to cast anything down here. Since we drew this scout, we have good protection against Dress Down plus removal spell. Alright, opponent going to get in there with Ragavan again. Trigger. Hyena Umbra found from their side. It's a bit annoying. I want to hit auras, so it's annoying that they took a good aura as well. And our opponent chooses not to cast Hyena Umbra. They just let it go through. Alright, so I think it's pretty highly likely that our opponent will counter the Ethereal Armor here if they've got a counterspell. Goodness, wait, did I play this wrong? Maybe I'm supposed to wait an extra turn on casting any of my auras. Because if they have Counterspell plus Spell Pierce or Archmage's Charm plus Spell Pierce, we've just given them the free untap. That just resolved. Seems highly likely that they have removal for our creature now if that they have Dress Down plus removal. We might want to just leave Hyena Umbra in hand for our current guy. Yeah, let's play patient. We should note that our opponent did miss a land drop last turn. So it's entirely possible that they're a little bit mana screwed, and Ragavan is fixing that problem for them to an nth degree. Okie dokie. Opponent still not cracking Scalding Tarn. Attacking with the Ragavan. Trigger. Taking away all our auras. That's annoying. I want Ethereal Armor. It's like, I'm so salty about that right now. Okie dokie. Now we're in business. Another Hyena Umbra. I mean, hopefully the bug's fixed, but likely not. So attack for 5. I think we just pass. We're really under no pressure to like extend onto the board here. It's possible for them to have dress down, removal spell, and counter spells. So I don't feel great about playing into any of that. Opponent finally cashes in the Scalding Tarn. Basic island. Here comes the dress down. Yeah. This is fine. I mean, they probably have a counterspell for the second scout, so that part's not super fine, but see how they navigate. So we should note that our opponent does not get Ragavan triggers this turn. It's lost that ability. Plays Mishra's Bauble, second main. Mishra's Bauble targeting us. Petty theft on the scout. I think that being the case, we don't want to sack Horizon Canopy. We just want to unload our hand. It's very likely they've got Counterspell, and we've got the second creature that we can re-resolve. Actually, yeah, that's about as perfect as it could have gone, really. Getting the second hexproof creature is huge. Alright, Dress Down is sacrificed. Mishra's Bauble trigger. Opponent 5 in hand. Find Pithing Needle. Ooh. Don't mind if I do, really. Can we name Treasure Token? On the off chance we can't name Treasure Token, I don't think I'm going to activate that. Alright, well that resolves. And that one resolves too? Okay. Goodness. I feel like we try to screw our opponent here off the treasure tokens. Maybe I should have played it first. They're just letting our stuff resolve. But if we can land screw our opponent when they're on 2 mana, that's going to be pretty huge. Let's see. That's not how you spell treasure. We can't name treasure token. Alright, so on that case we have a choice between Scalding Tarn and Engineered Explosives. I think our opponent already has mana, so we'll go for Engineered Explosives. I think we also go for a second hexproof creature here. That could be being greedy. Let's do it. In response, opponent plays Consider. That one resolves. Dress down with the treasure tokens. If they do that, then they're short on red mana. Alright, so that's really good. I think our opponent put Ragavan to the bin off the Consider. I didn't quite catch it, but I assume that's what happened because it doesn't say drew a card over here in the dialogue box. Opponent finds Polluted Delta, so I'm very glad we didn't name their land. What have they got now? Magus of the Moon. Treasure token, treasure token. Is it Dress Down? We beat Dress Down. Okay, it's Fatty Murkide. Still not awful. I'm so happy our opponent just lets us unload onto our creature. We have exactly enough to deal lethal damage to the Murkide Regent. So our opponent can choose to block with one of their other creatures. That's fine if that's what they want to do. I love the spot we're in at the moment. Really strong. A hush falls across the crowd. Opponent is deliberating his blocks here currently. Right now, His mana's been destroyed a little bit from losing those treasure tokens. And despite having Magus of the Moon, Murkide Regent, and Ragavan, we have the best creature on the board. Looks like they're going to cash in their Murkide Regent. Alright, so this next turn, absolutely going to be critical. Going to our opponent here. 5 minutes 28 left on the clock, but surely it's not going to time. Opponent with 4 cards in hand. We know at least 3 of these cards are spells. Our opponent has not been making their land drops. Opponent decides to attack in with Ragavan here. No blocks. Take the damage. Trigger. What does Ragavan find? Hyena Umbra. Well, they can actually put Hyena Umbra on Magus of the Moon. Stop 1 point of trample. Expressive Iteration. Oh, wow. They are digging. Alright. Well, I'm not upset to see that. Alright. Consider into exile with the Expressive Iteration. 7 plays 13. Wow, this is absolutely nail-biting. Alright, tapping 2 mana. Looks like maybe another Murkide Regent. Although, yep, they do have exactly enough from the graveyard to play another Murkide Regent. Okie dokie. Well, let's hope we draw a relevant aura. We'll be able to kill them on the spot. Not quite a kill on the spot. So we have the attack for 6 here. I don't think attacking with this scout is correct. If we attack with the scout, opponent blocks Glade Cover Scout that's enchanted on the Murktide. Magus of the Moon blocks the 1 mana scout. They go to 1 life. Puts them fairly far behind though. We can play another scout from our hand. I think putting them to 1 is kind of good. Alright, let's do it. Let's pull the pin. We've got another scout in hand, so we can do this. Opponent blocks as we assumed they would. They're going to be going to 1 point of life here. Magus of the Moon turned offline. Wait, no, Magus of the Moon not turned offline. Sorry, I'm not with it clearly. Alright, Glade Cover Scout down onto the battlefield. We are so close to getting there, people. This will be our second 5-0 with the deck if we do. I am going to jinx it. I am that confident right now. And our opponent concedes the game. Holy smokes, people. That is our second 5-0 with the deck. You can see over here, second trophy. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. The deck felt really strong. That final match was absolutely nail-biting to navigate there. It was really, really hard. I think because we changed from Deafening Silence to Chalice, it definitely powered up our opponent's dress downs just that little bit extra. It seemed like they were playing them conservatively and in the end step anyway, though. So I don't think it would have really impacted the game that much. It was definitely hard for us to try and find a good time to resolve Hyena Umbra. But I mean, yeah, I'm very, very happy with the way the league went, really. We took down a couple of big decks too. Taking out Tron and Murktide is definitely good and something to have on your radar. With the sideboard currently, Chalice of the Void is in there purely for Cascade. It's possible this could go down to 3 copies. It's possible that we could look to maybe have some Deafening Silence in here. Maybe have a different effect. I think I'm still sold on at least 3 copies of Force of Vigor. I'm seeing less and less Hammer Time right now. But that deck is just so scary, and it is good into the Blood Moon decks. It is good into Amulet Titan. It has applicability against Burn, applicability against Murktide, as we saw there. Leyline of Sanctity, I think it has to be in here currently. Pithing Needle is maybe a bit more questionable. Gadok Tig, I think I like it, 2 copies. It's possible for us to play something like a Nature's Claim as well. It could be overboarding on the enchantments, but maybe we substitute Force of Vigor for Nature's Claim. There is a line against Burn where a Burn player will look to Deflecting Palm your attack. You can Nature's Claim your own enchantment in response. You'll gain 4 life from the Nature's Claim. You'll shrink your creature and you'll throw off your opponent's combat math. After that, you know, if you're removing something like a Rancor, you'll be able to recast the Rancor. If you've already got Vigilance on your creature, which is relatively likely when you've got Sentinel's Eyes plus Daybreak, you're probably in an okay spot. So I could see a fairly reasonable argument for Nature's Claim currently. This artwork is strictly nicer in my opinion. With the main deck as well, I see an argument for Spider Umbra. Probably as a 2 of. Dress Down is difficult for us to play around, and the more totem armor effects we can fit in, probably the better. I think I'm finally going to pull the pin. I'm going to bring in Spider Umbra here, and I'm going to look to cut on Audacity. Alright, so we're going to test this out for the next leg. I mean, look at me. Absolute luxury position of going and changing a list that just 5-0'd. I do think Dress Down is a card to be considered and to play around, and even though we got the win here against our opponent today, I want to test this one out. I mean, if you're not sold on cutting Audacity, you've got other trims you can make. You've got your 2 mana effects of Spirit Mantle, All That Glitters, Griff Spoon, and Cartouche at 1 mana as well. So there's definitely a bit of flexibility there. I think I like Sentinel's Eyes at the moment. I think I like Rancor. The only other change I think I want to consider for the deck is bringing in a 1-of copy of Wooded Foothills and probably minusing a Temple Garden here. I don't think land destruction's super common at the moment. Just with these Sentinel's Eyes, it can be a little bit hard to escape sometimes. Having the extra Wooded Foothills in there to fuel the escape can be beneficial, especially if we're not casting Sentinel's Eyes for its escape cost once, but 2, 3 times. It's definitely something to consider. It's also an extra basic land in front of Blood Moon, but that's probably going to come up less than the escape cost is. So yeah, that's it for the video, guys. Everybody loves a 5-0. I'll definitely be clickbaiting it in the title. Let me know what you think of my sideboard tech of transitioning to Chalice of the Void. Makes the deck a little more expensive on paper and online. I think it's certainly something to consider though, giving Deafening Silence wasn't a good answer. If you've got other answers for Cascade decks, I'd love to hear them. I'll definitely consider them, but this was an easy one that came off of the top of my head. So yeah, huge thank you for everyone to watching. Leave a pod comment down below for the 5-0. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you next time.